"Where are you going dressed like that?" Marco Conti's voice cut through the quiet of the penthouse before Emily even reached the door. She stopped so fast her heels clicked twice on the marble. Her hand tightened around the thin gold strap of her purse. For a second she thought maybe she had imagined it. Marco didn't usually speak to her unless it was about something practical. But his voice came again, lower and closer. "Emily." She turned. Marco stood at the end of the hallway, near the living room, framed by the soft city lights spilling through the wall of glass behind him. He wore black dress pants, a black shirt with the top buttons open, and no tie. His sleeves were rolled up, showing his forearms. His hair was still slightly damp from a shower, pushed back with his fingers. His eyes were on her, and they were not calm. Emily Parker had seen that look before, but never aimed at her. It was the look that made grown men in expensive suits adjust their collars and choose their words carefully. Tonight it came with something new, surprise, and a sharp line of jealousy that made his jaw flex. She swallowed. "Good evening, Mr. Conti." He didn't nod. He didn't give his usual short Emily and go back to his call or his laptop. He walked toward her. Her heart sped up. She had worked for him for almost a year. In all that time, he had never moved toward her with that much focus. The hallway lights were warm and soft, but they felt too bright now. Emily became painfully aware of every inch of skin the red dress left uncovered. It clung to her body in a way nothing she owned ever had. Thin straps rested on her shoulders. The neckline dipped lower than anything she usually wore, even on a date. The hem sat high on her thighs. Her friend would be proud. "You finally look like someone who belongs in that building," she had said. Standing under Marco's stare, Emily wasn't so sure. He stopped an arm's length away. The scent of his cologne reached her, clean and subtle. His gaze moved from her face to her shoulders, down the curve of her waist, to the dress hem, then back up. He let out a breath through his nose. "I'll ask again," he said. "Where are you going dressed like that?" Emily lifted her chin a little, trying to hold on to the courage she had when she locked her own apartment door earlier. "It's my night off," she said. "I'm going out." "You go out every week," he replied. "You don't go out like this." That was true. Usually she wore jeans or a simple skirt, something that didn't catch attention. She spent so much of her time in a place full of glass and views and expensive things that outside she preferred to disappear. Tonight was different. Tonight she had decided she was tired of disappearing. "I have a date," she said, forcing the words out. "I'm meeting someone." Marco's eyes narrowed. "Who?" She hesitated. "A guy I met at a coffee shop." He raised one dark brow. "You gave your number to a stranger." "He's not a stranger anymore," Emily insisted. "We've been talking for a few weeks." "And now you're going to meet him alone at night in that dress." The way he said "that dress" made heat crawl up her neck. It wasn't mocking. It wasn't exactly disapproving. It sounded personal. Emily straightened her shoulders. "Mr. Conti, I finished all my tasks. The kitchen is clean, the guest room is made, your dry cleaning is hanging in your closet, and the schedule for tomorrow is on the counter. I clocked out. I'm not on your time." His jaw moved. For a second, she thought she saw a flicker of something almost like hurt in his eyes at the distance of her words. "I know you finished your work," he said. "That's not what this is about." "Then what is it about?" she asked before she could stop herself. He stared at her, and for the first time since she'd met him, he seemed to be searching for an answer he didn't already have. Marco Conti was not a man who lived with doubts. People in his world didn't have that luxury. He grew up learning that hesitation could cost lives and money. By 35, he had more power than men twice his age. People didn't question his decisions. They didn't argue with his rules. He was used to control. Tonight, control felt far away. He had heard the soft chime of the private elevator earlier and the faint clack of heels on marble. He assumed it was one of his guests arriving early. Then he saw Emily. He almost didn't recognize her. Gone was the loose gray uniform that hung on her body. Gone was the messy ponytail. Gone was the way she moved along the edges of the room, careful not to get in the way. In front of him stood a woman whose presence filled the hallway. The red dress drew the eye to every curve. Her hair fell straight and smooth over her back. Her lips had a slight shine. Her eyes, usually downcast when he came near, met his directly now, even if she had to force it. He had seen countless women dressed up for parties, events, deals. None of them had shaken his calm like this. "It's about safety," he answered finally. "You work for me. That makes you a target in ways you don't understand." "I clean your house," Emily said. "I change sheets and organize closets. No one cares about that." "You're wrong." His tone sharpened. "People care about anything connected to me. They watch who goes in and out of this building. They look for weaknesses." "I'm not your weakness," she said quietly. He held her gaze. "No," he said. "You're my responsibility." The words hit her in a place she didn't know was empty until now. Responsibility. No one had ever said that about her, not like that. She had always been the one taking care of others. Her mother when she was sick, her younger brother when he needed help, the elderly woman in the first building she cleaned, who couldn't reach the top cabinets anymore. She looked down for a second, then back at him. "I'll be careful," she said. "It's just a date. We're going to a rooftop bar downtown. There will be people around." His eyes flashed. "A rooftop bar?" "Yes." "Name?" She frowned. "What?" "Name of the place," he repeated. She told him. He went very still. Emily had seen him angry before, when a call went badly or a deal changed at the last second. This was different. This was calculation. "That bar belongs to a man I do business with," he said. "He's not a problem, but some of his clients are." He pulled his phone from his pocket. "You're not going there without coverage." Her stomach tightened. "Coverage?" He typed fast, his fingers moving with the kind of speed that came from habit. "Security," he said. "They stay in the background. You won't notice them, but they'll be there." "That's not necessary," she protested. "Really, if you send men, people will notice more. I don't want that." "People already notice you," Marco answered. His gaze traveled over her again. "Trust me." Her face warmed. She folded her free arm across her stomach, as if she could cover more of the red fabric. "I don't want to cause trouble," she murmured. He finished typing and slipped the phone away. "Too late," he said. "You walked out of your apartment wearing that dress. Trouble is already on its way." There was a hint of humor in his voice now, buried under the jealousy. She almost smiled, then stopped herself. She felt unsteady, as if the floor under her had shifted just an inch, just enough to make each step different. "I should go," she said. "I'll be late." He exhaled slowly. "Wait." She stayed where she was. He moved past her, and for a moment their shoulders almost touched. The heat from his body brushed against her skin. He went to the glass wall in the living room and gestured for her to follow. She walked after him, heels soft on the marble. The city glowed beyond the windows, tall buildings lit like a field of stars. Cars moved below, tiny dots of white and red. "Stand here," he said. She did, facing the glass. Her reflection appeared, framed by the skyline. For the first time, she saw herself the way someone from the outside might. Not just the maid who hurried around with a laundry basket. A young woman in a red dress that fit her better than she expected. Her hair glossy, straight, her posture taller, even with the nervous tightness in her stomach. Marco stood slightly behind her. Their reflections lined up, his dark, powerful presence a shadow at her back. "That's how other people will see you tonight," he said quietly. "Not as my maid, as a woman walking alone into a bar." She studied her reflection, then looked at his in the glass. "And how do you see me?" she asked. He hesitated. His eyes met hers in the reflection. There was no way to pretend he hadn't been affected. "Different," he said. "I've been blind." Her chest tightened. "Blind to what?" He shook his head once. "Doesn't matter." "It does to me." He looked down at the floor for a beat, then back up. "I should have noticed sooner how careful you are," he said. "How you stay small so no one looks twice." How you always make sure everyone else is comfortable, even when no one asks. She blinked. You notice that? I notice everything that happens in my home, he answered, including the woman who keeps it standing. Emily swallowed hard. Compliments were rare in her life. Compliments from him felt almost dangerous. Thank you, she said softly. He cleared his throat, as if uncomfortable with his own honesty. Don't thank me, he said. Let me do my job. Your job is not to be my bodyguard. My job is to control what I can, he replied. Tonight, that means making sure nothing touches you. For a moment, neither of them spoke. She turned away from the glass. He's just a guy from a coffee shop, she said. He doesn't know anything about you, or me. He thinks I work in cleaning services. That's all. You didn't want him to know you work for me, Marco guessed. I didn't want him to judge me, she corrected. People hear Maid and decide what that means. I didn't feel like explaining. Something flickered in his eyes. If he can't handle the truth about your job, he doesn't deserve your time. She almost laughed. That's easy to say when you live in a place like this. He studied her face. You're right, he said. I grew up with nothing. I know how people look at uniforms. The answer surprised her. He rarely talked about his past. Before she could ask more, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and replied with a quick text. Security is already on their way, he said. They'll be nearby when you arrive. I told you that's not non negoziare questo, he cut in, the Italian slipping out. I'm not negotiating this. Her brows drew together. You're very bossy for someone who says he's off the clock. That pulled a short, real smile from him. I'm always the boss, he said, even when I'm pretending not to be. Her heart jumped at the way he said it, rough and low. She looked toward the private hallway again. The elevator waited at the end, silver doors closed, silent. I really should go, she said. He nodded once. All right. She took a step, then felt his fingers brush her wrist. His hand closed gently around it, stopping her. She turned back. If you feel uncomfortable at any point, he said, his eyes on hers, if he says something you don't like, if anything feels wrong, call me. He took his phone, unlocked it, and pressed it into her hand. His contact was already on the screen. I already have your number, she said. I know, he replied, but now you have mine at the top of your calls. First name. You don't have to scroll. She stared at the phone, then at him. You're serious. Always, he said. Send me a message, a word, an emoji, anything. If you do, I'll come get you. That's not necessary, she whispered, but her voice was shaky now. I'm not asking if it's necessary, he said. I'm telling you it's an option. You're not alone out there, Emily. Not anymore. Something warm spread through her chest. It felt too big to hold. She handed his phone back. I'll be fine. He slid it into his pocket without breaking eye contact. I hope so, he said. They stood there for a moment, caught in a silence that felt charged with everything they weren't saying. Emily forced herself to turn away. Her heels made soft sounds on the marble as she walked down the hallway, past the art she dusted every week, past the console table where she always set down grocery bags. She pressed the elevator button. While she waited, she could feel his gaze on her back. The doors opened with a quiet chime. She stepped inside and turned, unable to stop herself from looking at him one more time. Marco was still there, hands in his pockets, shoulders tense, jaw locked. The city lights flared behind him through the glass. He looked like a man who owned everything he touched and hated that. For the first time in a long time, something he wanted was walking away from him. The doors slid shut. Emily let out a breath she didn't know she had been holding. The elevator hummed softly as it descended. Her reflection in the mirrored panel showed wide eyes, flushed cheeks, and a dress that now felt connected to something much bigger than a coffee shop date. Her phone buzzed in her purse. She checked it. A message from her friend. Send me a picture. I want to see the dress before you meet him. Emily smiled weakly and wrote back later, then tucked the phone away. 20 minutes later, she walked through the glass doors of the rooftop bar downtown. Music played at a comfortable volume. People laughed around small tables, city lights glittering beyond the railing. Her date, Jason, stood near the bar, waving when he saw her. He wore a casual button-down shirt and jeans. His smile was easy. His eyes ran over her dress in a way that felt different from Marco's gaze. Less intense, more like checking off a box. "You look, wow," he said. Didn't expect that from a cleaning girl. The words stung more than she wanted to admit. She forced a small smile. "Hi, Jason." He leaned in for a quick hug, already turning to signal the bartender. "I got us a table near the edge," he said. "The view is great. Anyway, you don't have to stay long. I know you have to wake up early for work and stuff." "Work and stuff." She followed him, nodding at the right moments, answering questions about her family, her favorite movie, anything safe. But somewhere between his comment about girls like her and the way he talked over her answers, the memory of Marco's voice echoed in her mind. "You're not alone out there, Emily. Not anymore." Across town, in the penthouse with glass walls, Marco sat on the edge of the couch, untouched drink on the table in front of him. He pretended to read a report on his tablet. He had read the same paragraph 5 times. His phone buzzed. A message from his head of security, Ryan. "We have eyes on her. She's at the bar. Guy looks clean, but..." Marco's chest tightened. His fingers moved quickly. "But what?" There was a slight pause. Then another message came through. "He keeps calling her the Maid. Tone isn't good. She's smiling, but it doesn't look real. Want us to stay only, or do you want more?" Marco stared at the screen. Something hot burned in his veins. He could almost see her fake smile, the way she probably lowered her eyes to avoid making things awkward. His thumb hovered over the keyboard. For the first time that night, he didn't feel like the boss of anything. He felt like a man about to make a choice he couldn't undo. He typed back, "Don't approach her. Don't approach him. Keep distance. I'm on my way." He grabbed his keys, his jacket, and headed for the elevator, heart beating harder than it had in years. As the doors closed in front of him, one thought filled his mind. This was supposed to be a simple date that didn't matter. So why did it feel like the start of something he would never be able to walk away from? The rooftop bar was warm with soft lights and low music, but Emily barely noticed any of it. Jason talked. She nodded. He asked things. She answered. But it all felt thin, like every sound was covered by the memory of Marco's voice still looping in her head. "If he makes you uncomfortable, call me." She hadn't realized how tense her shoulders were until she forced herself to breathe deeper. Jason snapped his fingers at the server. "2 more drinks," he said, even though Emily hadn't finished the first. "You okay?" he added, glancing at her dress again. "You keep fixing the hem. Is it too tight?" "It's fine," she said quickly. "I'm just not used to it." "I can tell," he laughed. "I mean, when we met, you were wearing that basic shirt. I didn't know you could clean up this well." She smiled politely. It didn't reach her eyes. "Thank you." "Oh no, it's a compliment," he insisted. "You look like a totally different person tonight." She didn't know why the words stung. Maybe because Marco had said something similar, but with entirely different meaning. Jason leaned his elbows on the table. "So tell me again, what do you do exactly? You said you work in cleaning services?" She took a slow breath. "I work for a private residence." "Like housekeeping?" he pressed. "Something like that." "Well, hey, money is money, right?" he said. "At least you're not stuck in fast food." Emily tightened her fingers around her small purse. She reminded herself this was just a date, just one evening. She didn't need to be bothered. But the truth was, she was bothered, deep down, and she knew why. Because now, for the first time in her life, she had been around a man who made her feel valued, important, without asking anything in return. Marco had looked at her like she mattered. Jason looked at her like she was a lucky exception. She tried to shake it off. She tried to focus on the view, on the lights, on anything except the strange hollow feeling growing in her chest. Then Jason leaned in. "So, do you work for anyone, interesting?" Her pulse stalled. "Interesting?" "You know, he chuckled. Rich, famous, one of those insane penthouses with glass everywhere. Come on, tell me. Emily froze. Jason grinned wider. Oh my God, you do, I knew it. That bag you have? No way a cleaning girl buys that. It was a gift, she whispered. From your boss? No. From her mother, years ago, but she didn't explain. Jason kept pushing. So who is he? Some Wall Street guy? Actor? Influencer? Or? He lowered his voice dramatically. A drug dealer or something? Emily inhaled sharply. Jason laughed at her expression. I'm kidding, relax. But seriously, tell me who you clean for. A flash of warning went down her spine. Marco had told her many times, my world touches everything around me. People notice who is close. She suddenly wondered if she should even be here, if this was already dangerous. I can't talk about my employer, she said firmly. It's private. Jason rolled his eyes. Okay, don't get weird. I'm just curious. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed inside her purse. For a second, hope tightened her throat. She thought it was Marco. But it was just her friend. Is he cute? Do you like him? Send pics. Emily forced a tiny smile and put the phone away. Jason raised a brow. Is that him? No, she said. He leaned back in his chair. Well, I hope he isn't the jealous type. Emily's heart skipped. Jason smirked. Guys hate when their maids start looking too pretty. Her stomach twisted. He's not. Her words died when she suddenly felt something. A shift in the air. It was faint, barely noticeable, but it prickled at the back of her neck. A pressure, a presence, a certainty. Someone was watching her. She subtly glanced around, and then she saw him. Across the bar, behind a group of people near the railing, two men stood with their backs straight, eyes flicking discreetly toward her table. Marco's security team. Her heart clenched. He really sent them. He hadn't been bluffing. Jason followed her gaze and scoffed. Those guys are from the agency next door. They think they're big shots. Ignore them. Emily didn't respond, because she knew Jason was wrong. Those men weren't random. They were Marco's. And if they were here, Marco was near. She didn't know how she knew, but she did. Her pulse quickened. She turned her head just a little, scanning the crowd. Then her breath caught, because there he was, Marco Conti. Standing near the entrance of the bar, black jacket over his shirt now, hands in his pockets, eyes locked on her like he had been carved out of shadow and intention. He looked wrong. Not wrong as in bad, wrong as in he shouldn't be here. And yet he was exactly where he needed to be. Emily froze. Jason followed her gaze and frowned. Who's that? Emily didn't answer, because she couldn't. Her heart was hammering too loud. Marco didn't move toward them. He didn't wave. He didn't speak. He just watched, quiet, still, deadly focused. Jason laughed nervously. Is that your boss? Emily's throat tightened. She didn't need to confirm it. The tension in her body said enough. Jason chuckled. Wow, he looks intense. No wonder you didn't tell me where you work. That guy looks like he owns the whole block. Emily swallowed. He shouldn't be here. Why? Did you do something wrong at work? She shook her head. Jason leaned closer, lowering his voice. Well, at least you've got his attention. I mean, look at him staring. He looks like he's ready to drag you back home. That's kind of flattering. Emily closed her eyes for a second. She didn't want this. She didn't want Jason analyzing Marco like he was some exhibit. And she didn't want Marco seeing Jason's hand slowly creeping across the table toward hers. But he did. Jason's fingers brushed hers. And that tiny, awkward little touch, something she would have ignored a week ago, hit her like an electric shock. Not because of Jason, but because she felt Marco's stare sharpen from across the room. Jason smiled. Relax, I'm not going to bite. Emily couldn't breathe. Her chest was too full of something she didn't dare name. Jason kept talking, oblivious. So, my place is 10 minutes from here. If you want... Jason, she cut gently. I think I should go. He blinked. Wait, what? We just got here. I know, She forced a smile. It's been a long day. Jason looked annoyed for the first time that evening. So that's it? You dress up like this and leave after one drink? Her stomach turned. This was wrong. She shouldn't have come. Emily stood, reaching for her purse. Thank you for the evening. Unbelievable, he muttered. If I knew you were this type. She didn't hear the rest, because she already felt her heartbeat in her ears. She walked toward the exit, and Marco stepped aside, clearing the path without saying a word. Emily passed him without looking directly at him. She didn't trust herself to, not when every part of her was hyper-aware of him. His scent, his presence, the tension radiating off him like heat. When she reached the stairs, his voice followed her, quiet, deep, too controlled. Emily. She stopped. Slowly she turned. Marco stood at the top of the steps, framed by the glow of the bar's lights behind him. What happened with him? He asked. Her breath caught. Nothing. Marco's eyes searched hers. Don't lie to me. Emily held her purse tighter. It wasn't a good match. His jaw moved. Did he touch you? Her lips parted. What? He stepped down 2 steps, closing some of the distance. Did he put his hands on you? Marco repeated, voice firmer now. No, she said quickly. Not like that. But he tried, Marco said quietly. She didn't answer. His nostrils flared just slightly. Emily swallowed. I'm going home. He took another step. You're not taking the subway dressed like that. I wasn't planning to. Good. Marco nodded once, decisive. I'm driving you. Emily's heart jumped. Marco, it's not negotiable. She hesitated. I don't want to ruin your night. You did, he said without hesitation. From the moment you walked out of my penthouse in that dress. Emily stared at him, breath caught in her throat. He came down the last step and stopped in front of her. His voice lowered. I should have stopped you, he said. Not because of him, but because I didn't want anyone else seeing you like this. She froze. Her pulse roared in her ears. His gaze moved over her face, softer now. Come with me, he said. And for the first time since she left the penthouse, Emily felt safe. Too safe. Dangerously safe. She nodded. Marco's shoulders relaxed, just a fraction. The only sign he had been holding tension for the last hour. He guided her with a gentle hand at the small of her back, leading her out of the bar and into the quiet night. Walking beside him, Emily knew one thing with absolute clarity. This wasn't just a date that went wrong. This was the moment Marco Conti stopped pretending he didn't care, and the moment Emily realized she wasn't sure she wanted him to stop. The city breeze hit Emily the second they stepped outside. It wasn't cold, just enough to make her shiver. Marco noticed instantly. Without a word, he slipped off his black jacket and placed it around her shoulders. His fingers brushed her skin, just barely, but the touch was enough to make her breath catch. You're freezing, he said quietly. I'm fine, she whispered, though her voice trembled for reasons that had nothing to do with temperature. Marco's SUV waited at the curb, the driver already gone, clearly dismissed. Marco opened the passenger door for her, hand resting lightly on the frame, waiting. He had always been a man of few words, but tonight, the silence between them felt loud, thick, charged. Emily slid into the seat. He closed the door gently, then walked around the car and got in beside her. The interior lights turned on for a second, illuminating the red dress hugging her curves. Marco froze. The lights clicked off, but it didn't matter. He had already memorized every detail. He fastened his seatbelt slowly, then turned the ignition. The soft hum of the engine filled the space. They drove for a moment without speaking. Emily stared out the window, the rhythm of the passing street lights steady and familiar. But her mind wasn't calm. Images from the night swirled. Jason's careless words, Marco's dark stare across the bar, the way he stepped between her and the world, as if it was instinct. She finally glanced at him. He was gripping the steering wheel harder than necessary. His jaw was tight, his eyes fixed on the road but unfocused, as if replaying something. "Marco," she said softly. He exhaled through his nose, long and controlled. "He should never have touched your hand." Her heart kicked. He didn't do anything wrong. "He made you uncomfortable." His tone wasn't loud, but the weight behind it made her stomach twist. "And I saw the way you pulled back." She looked down at her lap. "I didn't want to be rude." Marco shook his head. "You don't owe politeness to men like him. You don't even know him." "I don't need to know him." His voice was rougher now. "I saw enough." Emily didn't respond. She wasn't used to anyone taking her side so quickly, so fiercely. The city lights reflected off the windshield, flickering across his face, sharp jawline, furrowed brows, lips pressed tight. But beneath all of it, she saw something she hadn't expected. Worried. Marco Conti was worried. Not about a deal, not about a rival, not about business, about her. The realization made her chest tighten. She turned toward the window again, watching the buildings blur into each other. After a moment, she said, "I'm sorry if I caused trouble tonight." Marco's head snapped toward her. "You didn't cause anything. I made you leave home, and I made your security team. You didn't make me do anything," he cut in. "I came because I wanted to." Emily stared at him. He looked forward again, swallowing hard. "Because I needed to." The admission hung between them, fragile and dangerous. Emily didn't know what to do with it. It felt like something she shouldn't touch, like something that could change everything if she reached for it. But she wanted to reach for it. The rest of the ride was quiet. Not awkward. Electric. When they pulled into the garage of the penthouse building, Marco parked in his private spot and turned off the engine. Neither moved. Emily's fingers played with the hem of the jacket he'd placed on her shoulders. His jacket. It was warm from his body. "Thank you," she said softly. "For coming." "I told you," Marco replied. "You're not alone." He watched her for a moment. The garage lights washed over her face, softening her features. There was something vulnerable in her eyes, something he hadn't seen before. He opened his door. "Come on, I'll take you upstairs." But when he stepped around the car, he didn't open her door immediately. He paused. He stared through the window at her reflection, her profile, the way the red dress glowed against the dim lighting, the curve of her shoulder covered by his jacket. He let himself feel something he had been pushing back all night. I don't want her going on dates with anyone else. He closed his eyes for a moment, gathering the pieces of who he was supposed to be. A boss, a man with rules, a man with boundaries. But when he opened the door for her and she stepped out, looking small and beautiful in his jacket, every rule he lived by slipped further out of reach. They walked to the private elevator in silence. Inside, the world shrank to just the two of them. No noise. No people. Just the faint hum of the elevator rising toward the penthouse. Emily held onto the rail lightly, her fingers brushing the metal. Marco stood beside her, close enough that her arm almost touched his. He forced himself not to step closer. Her breath wavered. His fingers twitched. The elevator dinged softly. The doors opened, revealing the gleaming marble floor of the penthouse. Emily stepped out first. Marco followed, closing the door behind them. The penthouse glowed with soft, dim lights. The city spread behind the glass, endless and bright. Everything looked the same as when she left, except it didn't feel the same. Emily started to remove his jacket, but Marco stopped her gently. "Keep it," he said. "You're cold." She looked down before slowly pulling it tighter around herself. He watched her movements with a kind of quiet hunger he was terrified to name. "Emily," he said. She looked up. Marco swallowed. "I don't want you going back downstairs alone. Not tonight." Her pulse jumped. "I'm not going anywhere." His breath left him in a slow exhale. Relief washed over his face before he hid it again. Emily walked toward the windows, resting one hand lightly on the glass as she looked out. Her reflection glowed softly against the night skyline. Marco followed, slower. "You didn't enjoy the date," he said gently. She gave a small laugh. "That obvious? To me?" Yes. Her cheeks warmed. He was nice. Just not right. He wasn't good enough, Marco corrected. There's a difference. No one is perfect, Marco. I don't expect perfection. He stepped closer. But I expect a man to look at you like he sees your worth. Emily blinked. My worth? Yes. He held her gaze. You think you're invisible. You're not. Her chest tightened. You're only saying that because you're in a protective mood right now. His eyes darkened. Is that what you think? She looked away toward the windows. I don't know what to think. Emily? She turned back. Marco's voice was deeper now, lower, like he was speaking from somewhere he rarely allowed himself to go. Tonight, when you walked out in that red dress? He paused, struggling for a moment. I didn't recognize what I felt at first. Emily's heartbeat stumbled. And now? His jaw worked as he searched for the right words. Now I know exactly what it is. She stepped closer without realizing it. What? He looked at her lips, then her eyes, then the line of her neck. Every part of him pulled toward her like gravity. Jealousy, he said quietly. I didn't want you with him. Her breath caught. Marco, I didn't want him looking at you, talking to you, touching you. His voice softened. I didn't want him seeing what I should have seen months ago. Emily's chest rose and fell faster. Heat built low in her stomach. What do you see now? She whispered. He moved so slowly she wasn't sure he was moving at all. Then his fingers brushed her cheek. She gasped softly at the contact. I see a woman, he murmured. Beautiful, strong, and way too good for men who don't know how to treat her. She shivered under his touch. His thumb gently traced the corner of her jaw. You shouldn't say things like that, she whispered. Why? Because... Her voice wavered. Because I'll believe them. His breath hitched. He leaned closer, forehead nearly touching hers. Good, he whispered. Believe them. His hand slid to the back of her neck, not pulling, just holding her there lightly, as if offering her a choice. She looked up into his eyes, and for the first time, she didn't see the Mafia boss, the intimidating figure everyone else feared. She saw a man fighting not to cross a line. Emily, he said softly, almost painfully, if you knew how hard it is for me not to. A loud vibration cut through the moment. Marco flinched, pulling back an inch. His phone. He swore under his breath and released her, pulling it from his pocket. Emily stepped back, hand pressed to her chest, breath shaky. He checked the caller ID. His expression hardened instantly. It's business, he said quietly. She nodded, even though disappointment tightened her throat. He silenced the call and looked at her again. Neither spoke. Finally, he said, You should rest. It's late. Emily nodded once and turned toward the hallway, still wrapped in his jacket. She had taken 3 steps when Marco's voice stopped her again. Emily. She turned. He looked at her like he was memorizing her. This isn't over, he said. A shiver ran down her spine. She barely slept that night, and when she finally drifted off, it was with the feeling of Marco's fingers on her skin and the echo of his promise repeating in her mind. This isn't over. Emily woke up with sunlight brushing against her face, soft and warm. For one disoriented second, she didn't know where she was. Then she recognized the small framed picture on her nightstand, the faint hum of the building's ventilation, the familiar beige walls of her apartment, and the memories of the night before hit her all at once. Marco's jacket around her shoulders, Marco's hand on her cheek, Marco's voice, low, firm, breathless. This isn't over. She pressed her fingertips to her lips, not because he had kissed her, but because she could still feel the ghost of a moment that almost happened. A moment she kept replaying, unable to stop. She tried to get ready the way she always did. Tie her hair back, minimal makeup, comfortable clothes. But everything felt different. Her hands shook slightly when she applied mascara. Her heart beat too fast when she chose a simple shirt. She didn't know why she was nervous. She wasn't even supposed to see Marco until late. But the idea of seeing him again, a dinner he had called a date, made her pulse race in a way she had never experienced before. She took the elevator to the penthouse floor and stepped into the hallway, expecting silence. Instead, the smell hit her first. Warm pancakes, fresh coffee, fruit, something else she couldn't quite name, maybe vanilla. She blinked. The penthouse lights were dimmed to a warm glow, softer than usual. The windows were washed in morning gold, and the skyline sparkled outside. A vase of white flowers sat on the kitchen island, flowers that definitely weren't there last night. And then she saw the table. 2 plates, 2 sets of silverware, 2 glasses of water, a pot of coffee, a plate of pancakes stacked beautifully, almost like a cafe display. Emily's breath caught. She took a few slow steps forward, unsure if she was supposed to touch anything. That's when she heard him. "Good morning, Emily." She turned around so quickly she nearly lost her balance. Marco stood near the living room, sleeves rolled up, hair still damp, tie hanging around his neck loosely. He looked softer, unarmored, like a man who had been awake for hours thinking about something he couldn't shake. Her voice came out small. "Good morning." "You're early," he said, walking toward her. "I thought you'd take longer to rest. I couldn't sleep very well." His eyes softened slightly. "Neither did I." Her stomach fluttered. He stopped close enough for her to smell his cologne. Clean, warm, familiar now. He gestured toward the table. "I made breakfast." Her brows lifted slowly. "You made this?" There was a beat of silence before he admitted, "With assistance. A friend of mine is a chef. He walked me through it over video." Emily laughed under her breath. A small, genuine sound. "I didn't know you cooked." "There are a lot of things you don't know about me," he replied. "Yet." The yet pulled heat to her cheeks. He pulled out her chair. "Sit." She obeyed, though her hands trembled faintly. Marco sat across from her, watching her reaction more closely than he watched the food. "Try it," he said. She cut into the pancakes and took a bite. Sweet but balanced, soft, warm, comforting. Her eyes widened. "Marco, this is really good." A small smile tugged at his mouth. "I'm glad. I was worried you'd lie to be polite." "I wouldn't lie about food." "I know," he said. "You're honest. That's one of the first things I noticed about you." She looked at him. The air between them shifted, warmer, more charged. She tried to distract herself. "I can take over after breakfast. I can clean up, reset the rooms, make the bed." "No," he interrupted gently. "You're not working today." She blinked. "I'm not. Not for me." His voice softened. "Today, I want you here, just as yourself." Her lips parted. "Marco." He leaned back, studying her. "Last night shouldn't have ended the way it did." "I didn't want you to feel guilty," she murmured. "I'm not guilty," he said. "I'm frustrated." Her breath hitched. Frustrated. With myself, with the way I handled things, with the fact that I've been blind for so long. She looked down. "Blind to what?" He hesitated, choosing carefully. "To you." Her heart tripped. There it was again. That dangerous feeling she wasn't used to. Being seen. Really seen. Not as the maid, not as the background, not as the girl people overlooked. She swallowed. "I don't want things to be complicated." "They are," he said simply. "But that doesn't make them wrong." She didn't know what to say. She didn't know how to breathe normally around him anymore. Marco broke the silence gently. "Dinner, tonight, you and me." Her fingers went still. "Here?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because there are things I want to say," he replied, without interruptions, without business, without anyone else around. She hesitated. "Are you sure?" He nodded. "I've made up my mind." The certainty in his tone hit her harder than his touch ever could. Marco looked down at his coffee, swirling it once. "Emily, I want to know you. Really know you. Not just your schedule. Not just how you fold my shirts or organize the cabinets. I want to hear you talk. I want to know the things that make you smile, the things you hide, the things you love. Her throat tightened. You don't have to say anything now, he added softly. Tonight is just dinner. Something simple, something we should have done a long time ago. Emily nodded, and the tension in his shoulders softened. He checked his watch, only briefly, but she saw the way his gaze flicked back to her quickly, as if he didn't want to rush away. I have to go downstairs, he said reluctantly. Meetings, calls. Of course. But I'll be back by 8. She nodded. Okay. He stood, placing his napkin gently on the table. Emily started to do the same, but Marco reached across and stopped her hand. You don't have to clean, he murmured. Not today. But, no. His voice dropped. Just be here when I return. Her breath trembled. I will. Before walking away, he hesitated. Then he stepped behind her chair, leaned down just slightly, close enough for her skin to tingle, close enough that she felt the warmth of his breath near her ear. Wear something you feel beautiful in, he murmured. Because tonight, I want to see you. All of you. Emily's breath caught audibly. He straightened and walked away, leaving her completely breathless at the table. The penthouse was quiet after he left. Too quiet. Emily touched the edge of her plate, trying to ground herself. Tonight, dinner, just them. She should have felt nervous. She should have felt uncertain. But all she felt was a slow, deep truth settling into her chest. She wanted this. She wanted him. And for the first time in her life, someone wanted her back with the same intensity. Emily cleaned up the table, not because she had to, but because she needed something to do with her shaking hands. And as she carefully wiped the counter, she caught her reflection in the glass. Hair tousled, cheeks warm, eyes glowing in a way she didn't recognize. She looked different, alive, hopeful. Tonight would change everything. She could feel it. For the first time, Emily Parker wasn't afraid. She was ready. Emily spent the entire day in a state of quiet, restless energy. A strange mix of nerves and anticipation kept running through her like warm electricity. She cleaned her apartment twice, even though it didn't need it. She tried different outfits, different hairstyles, different earrings, only to scrap each decision 5 minutes later. Nothing felt good enough. How do you prepare for dinner with a man like Marco Conti? A man who made skyscrapers look small. A man who saw everything and missed nothing. A man who stood too close, spoke too softly, and looked at her like he was discovering a secret he wasn't supposed to find. By late afternoon, Emily finally chose something simple. A soft black dress that wasn't too tight, wasn't too loose, elegant without being loud. Her hair was down, natural waves falling over her shoulders. Light makeup, lip gloss. A perfume she saved for special nights, the kind that stayed quiet on her skin until someone stood close enough to feel it. At 7:45, she left her apartment and took the elevator to the penthouse. And every second of the ride felt like her heart was climbing into her throat. When the doors opened, she stepped into the silent hallway. The penthouse lights were dimmed. The floor-to-ceiling windows glowed with the blue of a settling night. Soft music played from somewhere inside, instrumental, warm, steady. She walked in slowly, and then she saw him. Marco stood near the dining table, arranging the last candle. He had changed. Black dress pants, dark belt, black shirt, sleeves rolled once, top buttons undone, no tie, hair styled back. He looked like every dangerous dream she had been trying not to have. He turned and froze. His breath left him in one slow, stunned exhale. Emily. His voice was low, almost rough. She stopped a few steps from the table, suddenly aware of every part of her body, every breath, every inch of air between them. Is this okay? She asked softly. He stared like he wasn't capable of speaking. Then, slowly, he walked toward her. Okay? He repeated. Emily, look at me. She lifted her eyes. He let his gaze travel down her dress, her hair, her neck, her hands. then back up. But it wasn't the way Jason had looked at her, curious, expectant. Marco looked at her like she was something rare, something he couldn't risk breaking. "I told you to wear something you felt beautiful in," he said quietly. "I tried. You succeeded," he murmured. Her cheeks flushed. He held her gaze for another long moment before stepping aside and gesturing toward the table. "I ordered dinner from a restaurant I think you'll like." The table was set for two, candles, wine glasses, plates with elegant dishes Emily had never been able to order for herself. The penthouse lights dimmed around them, the city glowing on all sides like a moving painting. Emily sat. Marco took the seat across from her, but he leaned just slightly forward, elbows resting lightly on the table. Not domineering, just present. "Did you have a good day?" he asked. She laughed softly. "I tried not to overthink tonight." Marco gave her a half smile. "And you failed miserably." "Completely. I'm glad." She blinked. "Why?" "It means you care," he said simply. Emily looked down at her plate, trying to calm her pounding heart. "And you? You didn't look like the type who gets nervous." "I'm not," Marco said. Then, after a beat, "Except tonight." Her head snapped up. "Really?" He nodded once. "Yes." The honesty in his voice wrapped around her like a warm hand. They started eating, talking easily, about food, the city, little stories from her life she never thought he'd care about. He wasn't just listening, he was paying attention. Every detail she shared he absorbed like it mattered. He told her things too, small pieces of his past, how he grew up, how he learned to be the man he is now. Not in a dramatic way, just simple truths he rarely shared. And the whole time, he kept looking at her like he couldn't help himself. Halfway through dinner, he said something that made her nearly drop her fork. "Emily, you know you can talk to me, right? About anything." She swallowed. "I don't want to bother you with my life." "You could never bother me," he said. "Not you." Her pulse sped up. After dinner, they moved to the couch facing the windows. The night outside was deep and vast, the city spread beneath them like scattered stars. Emily sat on one side, Marco on the other, but the space between them felt too big. Marco rested his arm on the back of the couch, almost behind her. Not touching, but close enough to feel the warmth radiating from him. "You've been quiet," he said softly. "I'm thinking." "About what?" "About how different you seem tonight." His brow lifted. "Different how?" "Gentler," she said. "More open." He considered that. "I'm the same man." She gave him a tiny smile. "Not with me." Marco's eyes softened in a way she rarely saw. "Maybe that's because you're not like anyone else." The confession hit her like a wave. Emily turned slightly toward him. "Marco." He leaned in the smallest bit, gaze flicking from her eyes to her lips. "Tell me what you're thinking." She inhaled unsteadily. "That this is dangerous." "For you?" he asked. "For both of us." He nodded once. "I know." "Then why?" "Because I don't want to stop," he said quietly. Her breath trembled. Silence fell between them, heavy and charged. Marco moved his hand slowly from the back of the couch to her shoulder. Just his fingertips at first. Light, tentative. A question more than a touch. She didn't pull away. His hand slid down her arm, warm and gentle, sending shivers down her skin. "Emily," he said softly. "I'm trying to be careful." "Why?" she whispered. "Because if I touch you the way I want to." His voice dropped lower. "I won't stop." Her heart slammed against her ribs. She felt heat rise in her cheeks, in her chest, rushing through her like a tidal wave. She leaned in closer without meaning to, just an inch, but enough to change everything. Marco's breath hitched. His fingers brushed her jaw. A soft, reverent touch. His thumb grazed her cheek. She felt the world narrow to that single point of contact. He tilted her chin up slightly. "Emily." Her lips parted in a silent invitation she wasn't brave enough to speak. Marco leaned in. Slow. Careful. As if she were something precious he didn't dare rush. Their foreheads touched, barely, her breath mixing with his. And then, a soft knock. Emily jumped. Marco shut his eyes for a second, the frustration obvious, controlled only by sheer will. He leaned back slightly, running a thumb across his jaw. "Of course," he muttered. The knock came again. "Mr. Conti, sorry to interrupt." Marco stood in one smooth, controlled motion. "Stay here." His voice was calm, but Emily could hear the tension beneath it. He opened the door just enough to speak with whoever was outside. She couldn't hear the words, only his tone, flat, short, irritation barely contained. A few seconds later he closed the door and turned back to her. "Business?" she asked softly. "Yes, but it can wait." His eyes returned to her, warm again, focused again. "I'm not letting anything take tonight from us." Emily's pulse fluttered at the intensity in his voice. He walked back to her and sat down, closer this time. So close her knee brushed his. "Where were we?" he murmured, voice low. Her breath caught. "Marco." He reached out again, hand on her cheek. "I don't want there to be lines between us anymore. But we agreed it's complicated." "So what?" he said gently. "Complicated doesn't mean wrong." Her chest tightened painfully. "I'm scared." "I know." He brushed his thumb across her cheek. "I am too." Emily felt everything inside her unraveling, every fear, every doubt, every little piece of her that had been taught to stay quiet and small. Marco leaned in again. "Tell me to stop," he whispered. She didn't. She couldn't. Her voice came out so soft she barely recognized it. "Don't stop." His breath shook. He closed the final inch between them, not with a kiss, but by sliding his hand behind her jaw, pulling her gently toward him, touching his forehead to hers with a tenderness that stole her breath. They stayed like that for long, suspended seconds, breathing the same air, hearts beating too fast, heat building between them like a spark about to catch fire. Then he whispered, "We crossed the line the second I saw you in that red dress." Emily smiled barely. "That night feels like a lifetime ago." "It was yesterday," he said, "and I haven't stopped thinking about you since." Her heart felt too full. Marco pulled back slightly, looking at her with a softness she never expected from him. "We'll go slow," he said. "Your pace." She nodded, eyes shining. "And if you ever feel unsure," he added, "I want you to tell me. I'll listen." Emily swallowed. "I trust you." His jaw clenched gently, an emotional reaction he didn't try to hide. "Good," he whispered. "Because I'm not going anywhere." The candles flickered softly between them. The city lights glowed behind them. And Emily Parker knew, without a doubt, that her life had just shifted for good. The candles burned low, soft golden halos flickering across the glass walls of the penthouse. The city spread behind them like a living backdrop, but neither Emily nor Marco noticed the skyline anymore. The world had shrunk to the couch, the warm glow of the room, and the impossible closeness between them. Marco still had his hand gently cupping her jaw, his thumb resting just beneath her cheekbone. His forehead leaned lightly against hers, their breaths mixing in the small space between them. No rushing, no pressure, just the kind of tension that made the air feel warm and full. Emily blinked slowly, absorbing every detail, the softness of his gaze, the way his chest rose and fell a little too fast, the tenderness in the way he held her, like one wrong move might break the entire moment. She had never felt so seen, so steady, so wanted. Marco was the first to speak, though his voice was barely more than breath. "Emily, I didn't plan for any of this." Her lips parted. "I know. I don't let people get close," he continued. "It's safer. For them. For me. For everything I've built." She swallowed. "And this feels close?" His throat bobbed as he swallowed. "Closer than I thought I could be." His thumb brushed her skin. "Closer than I should be." Emily's chest tightened. "Does it scare you?" He nodded once, slow and honest. "Yes." The simplicity of the confession hit her harder than anything else. Under all his confidence and power, beneath all the layers of the man the world feared, existed something she could feel now. Vulnerability. Tentative, quiet, real. "Am I the reason?" she whispered. He lifted his eyes fully to hers. "You are." Her breath caught. He moved his hand from her jaw to the back of her neck, warm and steady, but still gentle enough that she could pull away if she wanted to. She didn't. Marco exhaled slowly. "When I saw you yesterday, walking out in that red dress, something changed. I didn't want anyone else looking at you. I didn't want you going anywhere without me knowing you were safe." Emily's pulse fluttered. "I didn't even feel like myself when I put that dress on." He shook his head. "You should have. That dress didn't change you. It just showed me what I should have seen all along." Her breath trembled. The city hummed outside, a distant whisper to the stillness inside the penthouse. Marco's voice softened. "I should say no to this. I know that. But I don't want to." Emily leaned closer without thinking. "Neither do I." Something warm flickered in his eyes. Relief, longing, something deeper that he still wasn't sure how to name. He tilted her chin slightly. "Can I ask you something?" She nodded. "What did you think of me?" he asked quietly. "Before all of this?" Emily blinked. "You mean before last night?" "Yes." She hesitated. "I thought you were impossible to know. I thought you were strong and cold and intense, and intimidating." The corner of his mouth lifted. "Still intimidating?" "A little," she admitted. His brow arched. "And now?" "Now." She inhaled shakily. "Now I see a man who pretends not to feel anything because he feels too much." His expression softened, almost pained in how deeply her words hit him. "Emily." She smiled a little. "You don't scare me anymore." He licked his lower lip slowly, an unconscious gesture, but her breath caught anyway. "What do I make you feel now?" he asked. She lowered her eyes, suddenly shy. "Safe." Then quieter. "Wanted." Marco's breath hitched. He leaned in even closer, their noses nearly brushing. "You are wanted." Her pulse hammered so loudly she was sure he could feel it. His hand slid from her neck to her shoulder, thumb tracing small circles through the fabric of her dress. "I've been fighting myself since the moment we walked back into this penthouse," he murmured. "And I'm losing. Every second I'm near you, I want more." Her stomach tightened with anticipation. "More what?" "You," he said simply. "More of you." Heat raced through her body, settling low, warm and soft. "Marco." He cupped her chin. "Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if you don't feel it too." Emily shook her head quickly. "I do." His jaw clenched with restraint. "Then come here." She leaned in. He leaned in. Their lips brushed. Soft. Barely there. A whisper of a kiss. A test. His breath trembled. Hers caught. The lightest touch possible, and yet it felt like fire. Marco didn't deepen the kiss. Instead, he pulled back slowly, eyes locked on hers. "Again," he whispered. Emily swallowed and leaned in one more time, brushing her lips against his. This time her hand rested lightly on his chest. His heart hammered against her palm, strong and steady and very real. "Emily," he murmured, voice shaking with restraint. "If we keep going." She looked up. "I trust you." He closed his eyes briefly, as if the words physically hit him. He took a slow breath and opened them again. "I want this to be real, not a moment, not a mistake, something we choose." Emily nodded. "I'm choosing it." His expression softened in a way she had never seen before, like something heavy inside him finally let go. He lifted her hand and pressed it gently against his chest. "Then I need to show you something." She blinked. "What?" He stood, still holding her hand, and guided her across the living room to a small wooden box near the bar. He unlocked it with a key he always wore beneath his shirt on a small chain. Inside was a single object, a delicate pendant on a thin gold chain. Emily frowned slightly. "Marco, what is this?" He lifted the necklace carefully from the box, the metal catching the candlelight. "I bought this months ago," he said quietly. She blinked. "For someone. For you." Her breath caught. "Me? But why?" "Because even when I tried not to look, I kept seeing you," he said. "And I knew one day I'd want to give you something that matched the way I see you." Emily pressed a hand to her chest. "Marco." He stepped behind her, brushing her hair over her shoulder with a tenderness that made her knees weaken. "May I?" She nodded. His fingers grazed the back of her neck as he clasped the necklace. The touch was barely there, but she shivered. When he turned her around again, his eyes traveled slowly across her collarbone, the charm resting gently against her skin. "It suits you," he said softly. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "So are you." She felt tears sting her eyes, unexpected and overwhelming. He reached up, thumb brushing the corner of her eye. "Hey, none of that." "I'm sorry," she laughed softly. No one has ever—" "I know," he murmured. "Let me, I want to." Emily took a shaky breath. Marco leaned in close, forehead touching hers again. "This isn't temporary," he whispered. "Not for me." Her heart twisted with something deep and warm. "Not for me either." He smiled, a slow, soft, rare smile. His hand cupped the back of her head and he kissed her again, deeper this time, but still controlled, still gentle, still a man trying not to lose himself too fast. Emily kissed him back, and Marco exhaled against her lips like he had been holding that breath for months. When they finally pulled apart, his voice was quiet but sure. "Tomorrow," he said, "everything changes." Emily swallowed. "For better?" He brushed a strand of hair behind her ear, fingertips lingering. "For us? Yes. For everyone else, they'll have to adjust." She laughed softly, leaning into his touch. Marco kissed her forehead, slow and warm, and the moment lingered between them, full, tender, certain. Tonight they crossed the line. Tomorrow they would build something real. Emily woke up before the alarm, before the sun had fully risen, before the city outside the windows started moving. For a moment she lay still, staring at the soft ceiling above her, feeling the unfamiliar weight of a gold necklace resting on her collarbone. The necklace Marco had clasped around her neck the night before. The necklace that still carried the warmth of his hands. Yesterday wasn't a dream. Every moment replayed in flashes, his forehead against hers, his voice whispering that he was choosing her, his lips brushing softly against hers. His promise, tomorrow everything changes. Emily turned her head slowly and stared at the closed door, suddenly aware that Marco was only a few rooms away, possibly awake, possibly pacing, possibly drinking coffee the way he did when he had too much on his mind. And she was definitely on his mind today. The thought made her chest flutter. She got up and walked to the full-length mirror. Her hair was a little messy from sleep, her eyes still warm from dreams, the pendant resting perfectly at the center of her chest. For the first time in a long time, she liked what she saw. She wasn't the invisible maid quietly moving through rooms. She wasn't the girl tiptoeing so she didn't disturb anyone. She wasn't someone backgrounded into her own life. She was the woman Marco Conti fought himself over, the woman he watched across a bar like she was the only one there, the woman he brought home, the woman he kissed. And today, she would find out what everything changes really meant. Emily took a breath, fixed her hair, and stepped into the hallway. The penthouse was quiet at this hour, the kind of quiet that feels private, sacred. She walked toward the living room, following the faint smell of coffee. Marco was standing by the windows, a mug in his hand, the early blue light cutting across his shoulders. His profile was strong and still, the kind of stillness that comes before a storm or before a decision that could shift an entire life. He didn't hear her approach at first, not until she whispered, "Good morning." He turned instantly, and the look in his eyes, warm, relieved, hungry, gentle all at once, made her heartbeat trip over itself. "Good morning," he said softly. "Did you sleep well?" Emily nodded. Better than I thought I would. Marco took a slow step toward her. I didn't sleep at all. She blinked. Why? He stopped in front of her, close enough that her breath hitched. Because I couldn't stop thinking about you, about what I want to say today, about what I want this to be. Emily swallowed. And what do you want this to be? He reached out slowly, brushing a strand of hair off her cheek. Honest. Her breath trembled. He let his fingers trail lightly along her jaw. Real. Her chest tightened, his voice lowered. Yours. If you still want me. Her knees almost gave out. He stepped even closer, but didn't touch her, giving her space to choose. Marco, she whispered, I want you. The relief in his expression was immediate and breathtaking. He cupped her face with both hands and pressed his forehead to hers again, their new favorite place, and whispered, Then today, I make that official. Emily smiled softly. What does that mean exactly? He pulled back just enough to look into her eyes. It means I'm not hiding this, he said. It means you're not going to be treated like someone who works here. It means everyone knows you matter to me. His thumb brushed her cheek. It means you're with me. Her heart ached in the best way possible. But, he added, we do this together. No pressure, no rush. Whatever pace you want. Emily nodded, overwhelmed and steady at the same time. I want to try. Marco gave a soft smile, one so rare and real she had to memorize it. Then come with me, he said. I need to talk to the team. Her stomach flipped. Now? Yes, they're downstairs. Emily hesitated. Are you sure it's a good idea? Marco took her hand, not loosely, not hesitating, but firmly, gently, as if he had already decided and nothing could shake him. I've never been more sure of anything. He walked with her to the private elevator. The whole ride down, his thumb kept drawing calm circles on the back of her hand, steadying her. When the elevator doors opened, Ryan and two other members of Marco's security team were waiting. The moment they saw Marco holding her hand, their faces changed. Shock, confusion, understanding, respect, all flickering at once. Ryan cleared his throat. Boss? Marco squeezed her hand gently, then stepped forward, still holding her close. I want everyone to hear this clearly, he said, voice calm but firm. Emily isn't just the woman who works upstairs. She's someone I care about, someone important. And from now on, she is to be treated with respect equal to mine. Emily's breath caught. Ryan blinked. Understood. Marco added, any disrespect, any mistake, any comment, goes through me first, and I won't tolerate it. The room fell silent. Only Emily's heart kept racing, loud in her own ears. Marco stepped back to her, placing a hand lightly on her lower back. We're going upstairs. I just needed to make things clear. Ryan nodded, still processing. Congratulations, boss. Marco gave a small smile, the kind he only used with people he trusted. Thank you. He led Emily back into the elevator. As soon as the doors closed, she leaned back against the wall, chest rising quickly. Marco, that was necessary, he said. But it was so... He stepped closer, placing both hands on the wall beside her, caging her gently. Emily, he murmured. I told you. I'm not hiding this. Her body heated under his gaze. What happens now? He looked at her like she was a secret he wanted to learn slowly. Now, we spend the day together. No roles, no distance. Just us. And tonight, she whispered. He smiled, low and warm. Tonight I make you dinner, and we talk about what we want next. Emily's heart fluttered violently. And what do you want next? Marco lifted her chin with a finger. To build something with you, day by day. Slow if you want. Fast if you want. But real. Her breath hitched. I've never had anything real before. His voice softened. Then let me be your first. He kissed her. Not rushed, not cautious like yesterday. But deep, warm, sure. Like a man who finally let himself feel everything he'd been holding back. Emily melted into him, hands sliding up his chest. Marco's arm circled her waist and pulled her gently but firmly against him. When they broke apart, both breathless, he whispered against her lips, "This is just the beginning." And for the first time in her life, Emily felt absolutely certain everything she had lived until now had been leading to this. If you enjoy stories like this, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. That's how I'll know you truly liked it. Even if you're watching on your TV, grab a second to join this family of fans who love emotional and heartfelt stories. Your support means everything, and it helps us bring you even more tales like this one.